Please be seated. The record will show the presence of the jury, the defendant, and all counsel. The defense may call its next witness.
The defense calls Lisa Donon.
Can you spell your last name?
Yeah, Daidone.
Raise your right hand. You do solemnly swear the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes.
Thank you.
Please walk around and have a seat. You may proceed.
Good morning, Ms. Daidone. Can you give us your name, please?
Yeah, Lisa Daidone.
And what's your maiden name?
Andrews.
So are you married now?
Yes.
And who are you married to?
Dominic Daidone.
And how long have you been married?
About 2.5 years.
What do you do for a living?
I work for Prudential Insurance as a short-term disability claim manager.
Okay. Are you on leave right now?
Yes.
For what?
Parental leave. I had a baby 4 months ago.
Okay. Congratulations.
Thank you.
I want to talk to you. How old are you right now?
I am 25.
25, okay. I want to talk to you a little bit about Travis Alexander, okay? Did you know him?
Yes.
Now, originally, you and Travis, did you meet at church?
Yes, we did.
Through church activities?
Yes.
And were you both in a singles ward?
Yes.
Can you describe for me what that means, a singles ward?
Yeah, it's just a place where members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints would go. I started going when I was 18. That's the age you would start going. And then there are single members that go up until their age 30. When they turn 31 is when they would go to a different ward.
Okay, so a singles ward, I assume if somebody gets married, then they would not be in the singles ward anymore?
Correct.
Okay. So in other words, you wouldn't be in a singles ward now?
Correct.
Okay. What's the age difference between you and Travis?
A little over 10 years.
All right. So you said you started when you were 18?
Mm-hmm.
Is that a yes?
Yes, sorry. Yes.
That's okay. Were you 18 when you first met Travis?
I believe so.
Okay.
I'm sorry, I don't know exactly when I met him, the first time, but yes, that's when I started going to the singles ward, and I know just from knowledge that he was in the singles ward when I was 18.
Okay.
So probably met in passing at some time.
Okay. And about how many people were in the singles ward?
I don't know. 200 to 300. I really don't know the exact amount or anything.
Okay. But we're talking in the hundreds, right?
Yes.
So it's not just 20 people.
Correct.
And so when you first met Travis, then he would have been around 28 or 29?
Yes.
How long did you guys know each other? Well, did you know each other at all before you started dating?
Yes. Probably, about a year before we started seeing each other just one-on-one. We'd see each other in large groups for about a year.
And is that, you'd see each other like in church activities type thing?
Yes.
During this year, did you ever go to his house for any of the movie nights and things like that? And is that before you were dating?
Yes.
And how would you classify, That year before you started dating, how would you classify your relationship with Travis? Were you acquaintances? Were you friends?
I would say we were friends.
Friends?
Yes.
Okay. Did you talk to him very often?
Occasionally, yes. At those gatherings, never really. It wasn't until later that we became, started texting or talking on the phone.
Is that how when your relationship started to develop more?
Yes.
Now, before you dated Travis, you were dating someone by the name of Steve Bell?
Yes.
And how long did you date Steve Bell?
About 4 months.
And that was, so you dated Mr. Bell for a total of 4 months?
Yes.
Okay. And that was about how long before you officially started dating Travis?
From the time I broke up with Steve until I started dating Travis was about 6 months.
Okay. And during the time that after you broke up with Steve, or Mr. Bell, to the time that you officially started dating Travis, those 6 months, those are the time when you would still classify your relationship as a friend with Travis?
Yes.
Okay. And did you have any more contact with Mr. Bell?
Yes, occasionally.
Okay. And was Mr. Bell a part of the church?
Yes.
So he's also Mormon?
Yes.
I think the first time that you, well, I guess mostly for that year while you were friends with just friends with Travis, you were, did you hang out mostly in groups with him?
Yes.
One of the first times that you did something alone with him, was that after you had just lost a job?
Yes. Oh, sorry.
Overruled.
And did he talk to you about PPL?
Yes.
Was that a suggestion for a job for you?
Yes.
Did you ever get involved in PPL?
No.
And by PPL, I mean prepaid legal.
Yes.
Okay.
I understand.
All right. Now, overall, when you started dating Travis, you dated him for about, a total of about 8 months?
Sustained.
How long did you date Travis for?
I would say about 7 to 8 months.
Okay. And about when did you start?
Roughly July of 2007.
All right. And so when did you break up?
Middle to end of February of 2008.
All right. And go ahead. I just wanted you to be able to do that. When you were dating each other, did you email with each other?
Yes.
Did you text with each other?
Yes.
Did you instant message?
Yes.
And did you also call each other?
Yes.
The old-fashioned way?
Yes.
Okay. And besides that, then, did you also go on dates with him?
Yes.
At the time that you were dating him, did you have an email address, lisa.andrews87?
Overruled.
That means you can answer.
Yes.
All right. And when you were dating Travis, was it kind of what kind of relationship was it?
We had broken up a few times and gotten back together a few times.
Okay. So would you classify it as on and off?
Yes.
And when you broke up, who did the breaking up?
Usually it was me.
And during the times that you broke up with him, did he continue to text you afterwards?
Sometimes, yes.
All right. And did you end up start talking to each other again?
Yes.
And that would be until the final breakup, right?
Correct.
And after the final breakup around the end of February, did you have contact with him after that?
I did after the final breakup for a little bit.
Okay. When you first started dating Travis, let's see, how old were you?
When we first started dating, I was 19.
All right. And did he get really serious on you?
Yeah, he started talking about marriage fairly early.
Okay. I mean, he started talking about marriage how early? Within a couple of months or how long?
Probably. I can't remember exactly, but earlier than I was comfortable with at age 19.
Okay. And were you concerned about just turning 18 and then having the thought of getting married right away?
Objection B.
Sustained.
Did you want to get married at that point in time?
Not at that point in time.
Why not?
I felt like I was too young and immature, and I needed time to live my life before I was tied down to be married.
All right. And did you tell these things to Travis?
Yes.
Is that one of the one reasons why you broke up with him the first time?
I wouldn't say that would be the reason the first time, but in later conversations, I would say that was the main reason we broke up the second time.
Okay. Let's talk about the first time that you broke up. What was the reason for that?
I came to the understanding that he was cheating on me.
Do you know who he was cheating with?
Yes.
Who's that?
Jodi Arias.
And how did you learn that?
A former roommate of his had told my sister, who then told me.
Okay, so Mr. Alexander didn't tell you that.
No.
And did you confront him about that?
After I had broken up with him, yes.
All right. And after you broke up with him, did he continue to text you or email you?
Yes.
And was he persuasive about trying to get back together with you?
Yeah, I mean, in the way that he said he still cared about me.
And was he persistent, would you say?
Yes.
And eventually, did you get back together with him?
Yes.
And when you got back together with him, about how was your relationship at that point?
It was better. We had addressed a lot of the concerns that I had at the beginning. He explained that he wasn't.
Sustained.
All right. Did you feel that you could trust him at that point?
Yes.
And did you feel comfortable getting back into a relationship with him?
Yes.
About how long were you in a relationship with him until you broke up with him again?
I don't remember.
Okay. Can you say whether it was months or days?
I would say months.
Okay. And so then what was the second reason that you broke up with him? What was the reason that you broke up with him for the second time?
He was getting more serious about marriage, and I wasn't ready for that.
Okay. And at this point, Travis would have been about 29 or 30?
I believe he was 30 by this point.
Okay. And in the Mormon religion, how is 30 an older age to not be married, or how is that looked upon?
In my opinion, yes.
Okay. Is that how you were raised to believe?
I guess, yeah.
Okay. All right. And did Travis express to you that he was concerned about being older and not married?
Maybe. I don't know exactly. But I mean, he was concerned that he wasn't married yet. He wanted to be married. Okay. I don't know if it was exactly because of his age or just where he was in his life. That was one of his goals. He wanted to be married.
Okay. And was he telling you that he wanted to marry you?
Yes.
Judge, it's not for the truth of the matter asserted.
Overruled. You may answer.
Yes.
And so is this something that it got to the point that it concerned you to the point that you broke up with him?
Sustained.
Did you break up with him?
Yes.
And why did you do that for the second time?
I broke up with him because I felt that if he felt like he was in a point in his life that he did want to be married, he should explore other options because I was not ready at that point.
All right. And is that what you told him?
Yes.
And was this around December of 2007, would you say?
Sustained.
Do you remember when this was?
Not exactly. I would say maybe end of November, maybe early December. I'm not sure.
Okay. And at this point during your relationship, were you telling him that you loved him?
I believe so.
All right. And was he telling you that he loved you?
Yes.
And at this point now that this, I guess the second part of, after the first breakup, before the second, did you believe that your relationship was exclusive?
Yes.
All right. So do you believe that were you going to date anybody else?
No.
Okay. And did you believe that whether Travis was dating anyone else?
I believed it was exclusive between the two of us.
Okay.
It's monogamous.
All right. Did you know that he still had contact with Miss Arias?
Yes.
And did you know that he was in contact with another woman, Deanna Reed?
Yes.
And how did he contact them? Did you know?
A lot of it was phone calls and text messages, and I knew there were emails as well.
All right. And this was happening at the same time were you dating him at this time?
Yes.
And this was after the first breakup?
Yes.
And did you know that these were women that he had previously dated?
Yes.
But at this point, did you think that they were romantically involved at all?
No.
And he never told you that, right?
Sustained.
Did he ever tell you that he was texting these women and by the way, I'm also involved with them romantically?
No, he never said they were involved romantically.
Okay. At a certain point, though, did this kind of wear on your relationship?
Yes.
Okay. Why did it?
I felt that if we were to be in an exclusive relationship, he nor I should be texting or calling members of the opposite sex as often as they had done.
Okay. And at some point, did you ever have suspicions that he might have been cheating again?
Yes.
At the time that you were dating Travis, did you ever take any trips with him?
No.
Did you feel...
Well, I'm sorry. Yes, I just remembered just one.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Where did you go?
We went to Sedona.
Oh, okay. Was that an overnight trip?
No, it was just a day trip.
All right. In your religion, Travis was a Mormon also, right?
Correct.
Okay. In your religion, how is it looked upon for two single people to go on an overnight trip together?
It doesn't look very good.
All right. And did you come to find out that Travis took trips with Jodi?
Yes.
And what time period was that? Do you know?
Like as far as a month or anything? Or what do you mean?
Was it during the time that you were still dating Travis?
Yes.
And did you know where they went?
A few of the times, yes.
Oh, where were those?
Sustained.
And did he go on several trips then, as far as you understand?
I believe I knew of two.
Okay. And both of did he ever ask you to go?
No.
To your understanding, were these overnight trips?
Objection, hearsay.
Sustained.
Judge, it's not for the truth of the matter asserted.
Approach. proceed.
All right, Ms. Donon, was it your understanding that Travis took Jodi on overnight trips?
Yes.
Okay. At some point, was it after your relationship with Travis that you confronted him about these trips?
No, at some points it was during.
Okay. So did you ever tell Travis that you found out about these trips?
Yes.
All right. And did he explain it to you in a way that you thought that you felt it was an innocent trip?
Objection, leading, hearsay.
I'm leading so that there's no hearsay.
Overruled. You may answer.
I'm sorry, could you repeat the question?
Sure. Did he explain it to you in a way that you felt that it was an innocent trip?
Yes.
Okay. I want to talk a little bit about what you know about Jodi Arias, okay?
Okay.
Do you remember when you first met her or would have seen her?
I don't remember the exact time, but it was at, I believe it was at a church activity, a family home evening night.
Okay. And family home evening, is that something that the singles ward would do also?
Yes.
And I think I asked you earlier about going to Travis's house for cookies and movie nights. Would those be nights like family home evening nights?
They would be somewhat similar. However, the family home evening was actually sponsored by the church and was a church activity, and the other activities at Travis's house were just friends getting together.
Oh, okay. So did you meet Jodi the first time you saw her?
I believe so.
Okay. And when you first met her, to your knowledge, were she and Travis dating?
When I had spoken with her, she said that.
Objection, hearsay.
Did you come to find out that she was dating Travis?
Objection, hearsay.
Overruled. You may answer yes or no.
I'm sorry, could you repeat the question?
Did you come to find out that Travis and Jodi were dating when you first met Jodi?
Objection, hearsay. The question includes the hearsay.
Overruled. You may answer yes or no.
I'm sorry, there were differing stories, so I don't know what I understood at the time. I understood they were not dating. I'm sorry.
It's okay. You understood that they were not dating?
Correct.
Okay. Did you ever learn that they had dated?
Yes.
Okay. And when you were there different times that you saw Jodi and Travis together?
Yes.
Was that always in a public setting?
No, there was a time or two at his home.
Okay. And when those times at his home, were there other people around?
Yes.
About how many people? Like a small gathering or a larger gathering?
It would depend. I'm sure on one occasion it was a smaller gathering, one that I can recall.
Okay. And what would you include to be a smaller? How many people would you say in a smaller?
10 to 15 people.
Okay. So during the times that you saw Travis and Jodi together, did you ever see Travis being affectionate with Jodi?
No.
Did you ever see Jodi try to be affectionate with Travis?
Yes.
Did you see her trying to hold his hand?
Yes.
And did you see Travis do things like push her aside?
No.
Or brush her hand aside is what I mean.
I don't recall that.
Okay. Did you ever see basically him not reciprocating the affection?
Yes.
And as an example, I guess, did you ever see like her do something like try and reach for him and him just walk away?
I'm not sure of that example, but I did see her trying to, like you said, show affection, and he did not show it back.
Okay. And when we talk about showing affection, what do you mean? What kind of things was she doing?
I do remember one particular time at his house, he was trying to talk to the large group of people the smaller 10 to 15 people that were at his house, entertaining guests, and she as he was talking to everyone, she would be all over him and hugging on him and have her arms around him while he was talking to everyone else, and he did not reciprocate that.
Okay. And during this time that you first met Jodi and Travis, I guess, would this have been in the time frame before you and Travis dated?
Yes.
So would that have been before July of 2007?
Yes.
And when did you join the singles ward?
The summer after I graduated high school in 2006, so I would have gone in June of 2006.
Okay, so do you have an idea of what the time frame was when you first met Jodi?
I don't.
Okay, but based on what we know with you joining the singles ward and when you dated Travis, do you agree it would have been somewhere between July of 2006 to July of 2007?
Objection, leading.
Oh, do me answer.
Yes.
While you were dating Travis, he always professed...
Objection, lack of foundation, which started, we broke up many times.
Sustained.
During all 3 times that you dated Travis, during this 8 months of on and off relationship, you never had sexual relations with him, in other words, intercourse, right?
Correct.
And did he always profess to be a virgin?
Objection, hearsay, leading.
Sustained.
Did you want to have... Well, let me ask you this. After he died, you learned that he was not a virgin, right?
Objection, relevance, and hearsay.
At some point, were you shocked to learn that Travis actually was not a virgin?
I'm going to object to the form of the question. I believe that wasn't the question. Should have been posed.
I think that's what we discussed.
Approach.
Okay, Ms. Donon, let me ask this. After Travis's death, were you shocked to learn that he was not a virgin?
Yes.
Throughout your relationship with him, did you always feel like you were doing the right thing?
Objection leading relevance as to how she felt.
Did you feel...
Overruled. You may answer.
Could you repeat the question?
Sure. Did you always feel that you were doing the right thing with regard to premarital sex?
Yes.
Okay. All right. I want to talk to you a little bit more about one of the times with Travis. Did you say earlier that you and Travis used to email quite a bit?
Yes.
And text also?
Yes.
And at times did you email Travis things about your relationship?
Yes.
Judge, may I approach?
Yes.
Can I ask you to review? Can I ask you to review that? You see the email address at the top?
Yes.
All right. Is that an email from you?
Yes.
And who is that email to?
To Travis Alexander.
Do you see the date at the top?
Yes.
When is that?
Sunday, the 23rd of September, 2007.
All right. Do you recognize that?
Yes.
All right. Judge, may I approach?
You may.
And what I show you for the record is exhibit, what's been marked as exhibit number 385. You remember writing this email?
Yes.
Okay. Judge, defense would move to enter exhibit number 385 into evidence.
Objection hearsay.
Approach.
So, I know you got to see the email just a little bit ago. I'm going to ask you some questions about that email, okay?
Okay.
Do you remember in this email that you were talking to Travis about breaking up?
Yes.
And that was it the right thing to do?
Yes.
And did you hope that he came to the same
I'm not
conclusion?
objecting, she's actually just reading it. That's not what was discussed.
I'm not reading it.
All right, complete your question.
Did you hope that he came to the same conclusion?
Yes.
So that he would not continue. Why did you hope that he would come to the same conclusion?
Because I thought it was the right decision to break up, and that, I don't know, you don't want to talk to people after you break up with them, right?
Okay. Did you not want him to text or email you anymore then?
Not at that time, no.
Did you talk to him about the way you felt starting off the relationship,
Yes.
and that you started off wrong?
Yes, that's in the email.
Did you feel that way because you thought you might have tempted him to kiss? You thought that you might have tempted him to kiss you too soon.
Yes.
Did you talk to him about the fact that you both were making out for too long?
Yes.
And by making out, what do you mean?
Kissing.
Okay. I just want to be clear. And did you talk to him about how each time that you made out, it progressively got worse?
Yes.
Did you talk to him about when you used to make out with him in the beginning, you didn't think about sex?
Yes.
But eventually, it would creep into your mind?
Yes.
And was that something that you were not comfortable with?
Correct.
Did you talk to him about that you knew that sex was on his mind from the very beginning?
Yes.
Did you tell him that you took complete responsibility for not respecting the priesthood?
Yes.
Did you feel like it was your fault?
I felt it was a mutual thing.
Oh, mutual, okay. Did you talk to him about that whether you should have done a better job to keep his thoughts clean?
Yes.
Did you feel that that was your responsibility to keep his thoughts clean?
I felt, again, it was a mutual thing. Both of us were taking part in making out for what I felt was too long and too passionately, I suppose. And so both of us should have taken a step back.
Okay. Did you talk to him about that sometimes you felt that he wanted you just for your body?
I did say that in the email.
And that your kisses didn't mean anything to him?
I did say that in the email.
That you felt that it was a way for him to let out some sexual tension
I did say that in the email.
that he had so much of?
Again, I said that.
Did that make you feel used and dirty?
I did say that in the email.
And that if he truly cared for you, did you tell him that it wouldn't have been about passion and lust?
I did say that.
Do you remember telling him that you had previously told him to not grab your butt?
Yes.
And especially not in public?
Yes.
But that he persisted in doing it?
Yes.
Did it make you feel like he wasn't really listening to you?
At the time, yes.
You talked to him about words that you didn't use because he didn't like it?
Yes.
Were there certain words that he didn't want you to use?
Yes.
What kind of words?
He did not like the words poop or crap or fart.
Okay, I'm sorry that you said that. I'm sorry I asked. But, okay, so he didn't like those words. And did you refrain from saying those words for him?
Yes.
All right. And, but yet, did you ask him not to talk about sex so much?
Yes.
But he didn't, he did anyway, right?
Yes.
Did you feel like it's like he didn't care about how you felt, how your feelings were?
At the time, yes.
Did you tell him that you thought it was vulgar and unattractive when a man talks about sex as much as he did?
I did say that in the email.
And did you tell him that you know he wants it, meaning sex, but he needs to be patient?
I did say that in the email.
Is that because you believe that he had not had any sex before?
That's correct.
Did you tell him that he'll get his turn someday?
Yes.
Did you tell him that there were times when you felt that he was trying to mold you to be a certain way that he wanted?
Yes.
And that you felt that he was pushing you too much to be something that he wanted you to be?
Yes.
Did you feel that he didn't appreciate you for who you were at the time?
Yes. And I feel like this is all coming out of context, so I'm trying to just answer their questions the best I can, but...
Do you need a copy of it? Would that make it better?
Yeah.
Okay, sure. May I approach, Judge?
Yes.
There you go.
Thank you.
Thank you for telling me that, because I didn't know if you would remember. By all means. I'm on page 2. Did you tell him, and I'm on the top paragraph, did you tell him that you felt like he wanted you to be happy for him,
Yes.
but that you didn't feel that he reciprocated that to you?
Yes, I did say that in the email.
That he asked for compliments often?
Yes.
That it would make it almost impossible for you to keep giving them and be sincere?
Yes.
Did you talk about your trip to Sedona with him?
Objection, relevance.
Overruled, you may answer.
Yes, I did.
And did you feel like he wasn't paying attention to you on that trip?
At times, yes.
Did you tell him that?
Yes.
And did he snap back at you that you should be grateful?
I don't believe he said you should be grateful. In the email, out of my frustration, I inferred that's what he was saying to me, but I don't believe he ever said those words.
Oh, okay. All right. So, but during the trip to Sedona, did you tell him that he wasn't paying attention to you, or that you were worried he was on the phone too much?
Yes.
Okay. And did he comment back to you that...
Objection, hearsay.
Sustained.
Judge, may we approach? Well, actually, that's okay. That's okay. Did you talk about a time when you got home from California and he got home from Vegas?
Objection, relevance.
Approach. May continue.
All right, and when you were talking to him about the time that you met, after you both had just gotten home from out of state, did you tell him about your concerns that you made out too intensely?
Yes.
Did you also tell him that you thought you were part to blame for that?
Yes.
Did you tell him that you don't think that you have enough to agree upon with each other to be a family?
Objection, relevance.
Approach.
Did you express concern that you didn't share the same values?
Yes.
And did you feel that he shot your values down? The values that you embraced, he would shoot down?
At the time, yes.
And that was before you can even express how you really felt?
Yeah, sometimes, yes.
Did you tell him that it hurt your feelings when he told you that being a teacher is, if that's what you want to do with your life, but I think it sucks?
Objection, relevance, hearsay.
Counsel approach. May continue.
Did you talk to Travis about your goal of wanting to become a teacher?
Yes.
And he didn't support you in that, did he?
Not at that time.
And how did that make you feel?
Not good.
Did it hurt your feelings?
Yeah.
Did you not feel supported by someone that you were supposed to be loved by?
Yes.
And when you wrote this email, it was he gone for a couple of days prior to this email? I'm looking at the second paragraph.
No, I wrote this email. I had seen him that day when I wrote this email.
Okay, but prior to writing the email, I guess, had he been gone for a couple of days that month?
Are you referencing a
A
paragraph?
trip to Havasupai.
Okay, where is that located?
Page 3, second paragraph.
I don't know if that was like right before the email or when in relation to this email it was, but yes, he did go on a trip.
Okay, that's all I was asking.
Okay.
That he had been away for 4 days?
Yes.
Okay. And did that give you time to think, being apart from him?
Yes.
Did you tell him that you had been stressed out about certain things, but he didn't seem to be interested in your problems? Third paragraph.
Third paragraph. Yes, I did.
And did that hurt your feelings?
Yes.
Did you tell him that he overreacted about a lot of things? Having to do with your trip, you say. His trip.
Yes. In regards to his Havasupai trip, yes.
Okay, and what did you mean by that?
I don't remember what happened on his trip exactly, but I think just one thing after another went wrong. I don't recall the specific instance, but something like they had car troubles and then this happened and so said, you know, something about the trip not being good or something. And so it was just a lot of snowball effect. His trip didn't go well, I suppose.
Okay. And so in the email, are you telling him that you thought he was overreacting to those things going wrong with his trip?
Yes.
And that when he overreacted, that was not attractive to you?
Yes.
And then in bold letters, you said that he didn't tell you that Jodi went with him on that trip, right?
Correct.
Did you suspect it?
Yes.
And because you suspected, did you ask him?
I don't know. I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was just going to say, I don't know if I asked specifically if Jodi was going, but I know I asked, who's going on the trip with you?
Okay. He didn't tell you, Jodi.
Correct.
And so because he didn't tell you that Jodi was going on the trip, you trusted that she wasn't going.
Correct.
Did you feel that he intentionally hid it from you, that she was on the trip?
Yes.
Did you tell him that you thought he was being selfish when he wanted to have conversations with you late at night and you were too tired to talk?
Yes, I did say that at the time.
Did you tell him that you thought that he was ignoring some of your phone calls?
Yeah, at one instance, yes.
Do you remember, was he on the trip at the time that he was ignoring your calls? Do you know what that refers to?
No, it was, we were going to go on a camping trip with our singles ward, and I was with the friends that we were going to be driving up with, and he was late, and we tried calling to see what was going on, and he didn't answer phone calls.
Okay. Did you talk to him about that he got upset with you because you wouldn't let him lay on you when he was car sick?
When I was car sick?
I'm sorry. Yes.
Yeah,
when you
I
were
wasn't.
car sick.
I wasn't feeling well, and he wanted to like cuddle in the car, and I wasn't feeling well, and yeah.
And did he get upset about that?
Yeah.
And did you tell him that you thought that his frustration was visible and immature?
Yes.
And did you tell him that you didn't feel that you deserved to be treated that way?
Yes.
And that behavior seemed to continue throughout the rest of the campout?
Yes.
And then it seems that, did you go over to his house on a Saturday where you actually got along? Did you talk about that?
Yes, I talked about that in the email.
Okay. And you felt that things were better between the two of you?
Yes.
But then did you have some more time to think about it? Did you tell him that you had more time to think about it?
Yes, I told him that in the email.
Okay. Did you tell him that you were sick of hearing about Jodi Arias?
Yes.
And when he talked about Jodi often enough, is that when you began to suspect that he was still seeing her?
I don't recall when.
Okay. Did you tell him that you were sick of hearing about her?
Yes.
Okay. And then did you tell him that that's when you began to suspect?
Yeah, it's quoted there in the email, yes.
Okay. And that he told you nothing was going on,
Yes.
but something inside of you felt otherwise?
Yes, and that something inside of me was actually his roommate had told me.
Oh.
And I had promised his roommate that I would not say anything because his roommate was afraid he might have a bad interaction with Travis at the time. Just
So
a fight or something.
Okay. So you didn't want to give up the roommate. That's how you knew.
Yeah.
Okay. Were you upset telling him that what woman would hold on so long without any sense of reassurance?
Yes.
Were you talking about Jodi?
I think I was talking about both of us.
Oh, okay. And did you tell him that if he really cared about you, that he would tell Jodi to back off?
Yes.
And regardless of their past?
Yes.
Did you tell him that you feel you can't trust him anymore?
Yes, at that time I did say that.
And that you felt that at this point that your relationship could go no further?
Yes.
Did you tell him that to please not to respond?
Yes.
Did you tell him that you felt cheated and lied to?
Yes.
And did you tell him that you didn't wish to hear anything more?
Yes.
Now this was in September of 2007, right?
Yes.
But when did you actually have the final breakup between you and Travis?
February, mid to late February of 2008.
So after this email, did you still continue to talk with him?
Yes.
And that was that by texting?
It was all of the above.
Oh, okay. Texting, calling, and
Emailing, instant message, in person.
Okay. So did you continue to see him then?
Yes.
Were you separated at all for any period of time after this email?
Yes.
How long?
I don't know, maybe a couple weeks.
Okay. And during that couple weeks separation, did you have any contact with him at all?
I'm not sure.
All right. And then eventually, did he start contacting you?
Yes.
And did he feel badly about the breakup?
Yes.
And did you feel that he was kind of clingy to you?
I would interpret it more as he was trying to show that he cared and that he wanted to talk about the things that I had mentioned here, and at least if we couldn't date any longer, he would be okay with that as long as he could address some of these issues that I said out of anger.
Okay. Do you have any idea about how long it took you to write this email?
No.
And after you sent this email, did you contact him at all the next day or anything like that?
I'm not sure. I don't think so.
Okay. Did you ever contact him shortly after this email to say, I'm sorry, I take it all back?
No. Okay. But when we had spoken about it, I felt these issues were all resolved.
Okay. And so once you felt the issues were resolved, is that when you started dating again?
Yes.
And it was about a couple of weeks?
Yeah, something like that.
Okay. And so I guess based on the timing of this email, then we would be into what, October or November? That you started dating again?
Probably October.
Okay. And just so I have timeline-wise, what breakup is this?
This is the first.
This is the first one,
Yeah.
okay. And so then, by October, November, you're back together again, is that right?
Yeah, October.
October, okay. And then in December, is that when you have the second breakup?
Yeah, late November or early December.
Okay. And is that second breakup because he was too serious with you?
Yeah, he wanted marriage and I did not.
Okay. And how long when you broke up was it December that you broke up then?
Late November or early December. I'm not
sorry,
sure.
I'm sorry, I keep getting that. All right, so late November, early December. Were you separated for any period of time?
I'm not sure. Maybe. I don't know.
Would it have been as long as the first breakup separation?
I don't think so. Neither of us were out of town during that time, I don't think.
Okay. What do you mean neither of us were out of town?
Like for the first breakup, shortly after, he had gone on a trip somewhere, I'm not sure where, and I had gone somewhere with my sister and our roommate. So I know we were separated as far as at least a state apart for that time. So
okay.
I'm not sure as far as the second breakup.
Oh, okay. With the second breakup, do you know if you had maintained any kind of separation by way of text messages and emails?
I don't think so.
Okay. So did he continue to text with you?
Yeah, but it was definitely reciprocated by me. We still loved each other. It was just we were in different places.
Right. Okay. And so both of you were talking to each other?
Yes.
And when was the final breakup?
Mid to late February.
Of 2008?
Of 2008, yes.
Okay. And did you do the final breakup?
That was somewhat more mutual.
Okay. Judge, this might be a good time.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to take the noon recess at this time. Please be back in the designated area at 1:25. Actually, now that you have your key cards, you can let yourself back into the jury room. Just be back there by 1:25. Remember the admonition. Are there any questions? Have a nice lunch. You are excused. Let's bring in the jury. Please be seated. The record will show the presence of the jury, the defendant, and all counsel. You may cross-examine.
Ma'am, one of the things that you told us was that The reason you broke up at the third time, the final time, was that there were strange things that were happening, correct?
Correct.
And one of the things that was strange was that at one point you were living in an apartment, right?
It was a house.
It was a house?
Yeah.
And one night there was, or the door to that house had a security device. When somebody would come in, it would make a ringing sound, correct?
Yes.
And it was sometime in the evening that this front door made a ringing sound, right?
Yes.
You went downstairs, and Mr. Alexander was over at your house, correct?
Correct.
And the both of you went downstairs to investigate and found nothing, correct?
Correct.
The door was open, though, unlocked, correct?
There's more backstory
Okay.
to that.
So then, after that, though, one of the things that happened is that you asked, as a result of that, you asked Mr. Alexander to spend the night with you, didn't you?
Yes.
And he, in fact, did spend the night with you, didn't he?
Yes.
And during that night, he never made any sexual advances towards you, right?
Correct.
He may have kissed you, but there was none of this passionate kissing, correct?
Correct.
You were not in the mood for that night, right?
Right.
And neither was he?
Correct.
And he spent the whole night with you because of this incident, right?
Yes.
And at no time that night did he touch your rear or hindquarters, did he?
No.
And at no time did he touch any other sexual part of your body, correct?
Correct.
The other incident that created, or that you say, or it was strange that was happening, was that one day you were over at Mr. Alexander's house, correct?
Yes.
And it was toward the time that you were about to break up with him for the third time, right?
Roughly, yes.
About how much time before that was it?
I'm not sure of the time frame exactly, but I think maybe in December, late December, early January, possibly.
All right. And during that time, you were in the kitchen, correct?
Yes.
And was Mr. Alexander in the kitchen?
Yes.
And while the two of you were standing there in the kitchen, did somebody come into the house unannounced?
Yes.
Was that the defendant, Jodi Arias?
Yes.
And is she the person that's sitting there to my left with the sort of tan top and the glasses?
Yes.
And when she came in to the house, she saw you and she saw Mr. Alexander, correct?
Yes.
And what entrance did she come in through?
The front door.
And when she came in and saw the two of you there, she turned around and just left, correct?
Yes, she ran out.
She ran out. And these incidents were the reasons why you indicated that strange things were happening, and that's why you ended up breaking up with him, right?
Yes.
You were asked about this particular email that you sent in 2007. Do you remember talking about that before lunch?
Yes.
And one of the things that was talked about with regard to that email was that something about tempted to kiss and that sort of thing. Do you remember that the email referenced that?
Yes.
Well, isn't it true, ma'am, that Mr. Alexander wouldn't kiss you at the start, would he?
Yes.
And in fact, the person who initiated the sexual contact, if that's what it is, was you, right?
Yes.
You told him to kiss you, didn't you?
Yes.
And he was the person that had been holding off, right?
Yes.
And you believe that the reason that he was holding off was in part because of your religious beliefs, correct?
Yes.
There was this particular issue involving him touching you in the rear end, the butt, I think is what was said, right?
Yes.
After you mentioned it to him in this email, did he ever touch you there again?
Not unmerited.
In other words, it was welcomed after that, correct?
Yes.
And during this whole time, while you were with Mr. Alexander, and in the beginning, there came a time that the two of you began to kiss, right?
Yes.
And you mentioned something in this email about sex was nowhere on my mind, and something to the effect that you felt that he was too interested in sex. Do you remember that?
Yes.
Actually, what was going on, ma'am, is that you and he were engaging in what was a very normal form of showing affection in kissing, right?
Yes.
And during the time that he was kissing, and again, not to get too much into this, he achieved an erection, right?
Yes.
You did not massage his erection, right?
Correct.
He did not massage his own erection, correct?
Correct.
It was a biological response to your lips, wasn't it?
Correct.
And that, at that time, because of your inexperience, you thought that he should have controlled his penis from becoming tumescent or getting big just because he was kissing you. You thought that's what the problem was, right?
Yes. Yes.
And it was because of your inexperience, correct?
Correct.
And with regard to this whole time, in the beginning, the first time that you're with him, he never at any time forced you to do anything sexual that you did not want to do, correct?
Correct.
And with regard to the fact that he talked a lot about sex, it was mostly in a joking manner in response to certain things that may have been said, correct?
Correct.
So it wasn't like he was saying to you, we need to get down, baby, or anything like that, was it?
Correct.
It was more in response to the environment that was around you, correct?
Yes.
He never touched you, in other words, in an aggressive, physical way, did he?
No, he did not.
And during the second time that you were together with him, the issues that are addressed in the email, were they partially addressed? In other words, did he begin to pay more attention to you?
Yes.
And did he begin to be, in other words, caring of how you felt?
Yes.
And in fact, you indicated that he was the one that wanted to get married, right?
Yes.
And at that time, he was doing everything he could to conform to what you wanted, correct?
Yes.
It wasn't the other way around, that you were doing what he wanted. Now, he was doing what you wanted, correct?
Yes.
And at times, when things would come up, he would indicate, and I'm talking about a sexual fashion, he was the one that actually would stop because he was afraid that you would be adversely affected in that area, correct?
Objection, speculation, knowledge.
Sustained.
With regard to certain times while you guys were involved, did there come a time when he stopped and you wanted him to go a little bit forward?
Yes.
So he was the one at some point that was stopping, right?
Yes.
Without telling what it was, he gave you a reason, right?
Yeah.
And it was a valid reason to you, wasn't it?
Yes.
And the same thing during the third time that you got together with him, during that time. At no time did he foist himself upon you sexually, did he?
No, he did not.
If he kissed you, it was something that was welcomed by you, correct?
Correct.
And if you kissed him, it was something that was welcomed by him, right?
Yes.
Did you, when you were in public with him, was it a situation where you were glomming onto him, grabbing onto him, hugging him, all of that stuff? Is that what you were doing in public or not?
No.
When you describe what the defendant was doing, is that what she was doing when he's speaking with these other individuals?
Yes.
He was having a conversation with other people at that time, right?
Yes.
And he was engaged in talking whatever it was, correct?
Yes.
And they were watching, right?
Yeah.
And she came up on him and just started to sort of put herself on him in what appears to be a socially inappropriate manner, right?
Yes.
And that would be your assessment of that situation, right?
Yes.
And even when you broke up with him these other times, the first two times, did he ever scream at you that he was upset that you'd broken up with him?
No.
But he did want you back, didn't he?
Yes.
My understanding or viewing of what was going on, it appears like it was a situation more of, and I understand that he was older, but a couple of high schoolers going back and forth with each other. Would you have qualms if I characterized it that way?
No, that's exactly what it was.
And as part of being in this high school relationship, you had very strong feelings, didn't you?
Yes.
And you expressed them sometime in a somewhat immature fashion, didn't you?
Yes.
And one of them was sending him this email, wasn't it?
Absolutely.
And that's why you kept saying at that time, that's how you felt, right?
Yes.
And in retrospect, do you think that perhaps some of the comments that you made were a little unfair to him?
Yes.
And ma'am, with regard to everything that he did to you, and how you feel, and how you know of the circumstances and the situation that you were in, with regard to Exhibit 205, do you think in your mind, because you were the one that was experiencing, do you think that, do you,
Objection to that being shown, Judge, that it's completely irrelevant, and it's quite frankly...
Okay, counsel approach. Counsel approach. May continue.
Sir, ma'am, with regard to, you were being asked about how you were aggrieved about the fact that he may have been cheating with the defendant. Do you remember about that?
Yes.
And you were asked about, how many times he had been cheating, correct?
I'm not.
You were asked about that,
Okay.
right? And that was part of the breakup, right?
Yes.
Do you think that it is appropriate, given everything that they claim that he put you through, do you think that it is appropriate to take a knife and slash somebody's throat?
Objection, relevance. Relevance, and it goes with her opinion. Her opinion is not.
We approach.
You may approach.
One of the things that you were asked about was Mr. Alexander's virginity. Do you remember that?
Yes.
And you were asked about whether or not you had a belief about his virginity and a belief about his virginity afterwards, right?
Yes.
And this issue about his virginity was something that you and he discussed, correct?
Yes.
And with regard to the issue of virginity, that was something that was discussed by somebody else after this particular murder happened, right?
Objection as to the name murder.
Pardon? I didn't hear your objection.
Objection as to him referring to it as murder. Is there
I'll say killing.
Rephrase.
And you had some conversations with some people involving his virginity after the killing, right?
Yes.
And with regard to whether he was or he wasn't a virgin, throughout this whole time that you were with him, did he, aside from certain items when he wanted to make out with you, that sort of thing, did he treat you with dignity and respect throughout this whole thing?
Yes.
At any time did he touch you by hitting you inappropriately?
No.
And the person who started this kissing thing was you, right?
Yes.
I don't have anything else.
Redirect.
I know that the initial time that you and Travis both started kissing, you're saying that you initiated that. Is that
Yes.
true? Okay, but you and Travis kissed more than once.
Yes.
Many times, right?
Yes.
And according to your email, there were many times that you weren't just you were making out very passionately.
Yes.
And those were the times that you started to feel uncomfortable, right?
Objection, leading.
Sustained.
Did you feel uncomfortable during those times?
Early on, because of my inexperience, I was 19.
Okay. You were 19 and he was 29 or 30?
Yes.
And during one of those times you said that he achieved an erection?
Yes.
And is that what made you uncomfortable?
Yes.
And once he had an erection, he didn't stop, did he? Stop kissing you?
No.
The initial breakup you said was because you found out he was cheating, right?
Yes.
And when you got back together with him, did you believe that he had stopped cheating?
Actually, I got back together with him because I understood that he had not cheated and I had gotten faulty information.
Oh, okay. The faulty information you said came from his roommate?
Yes.
And so Mr. Alexander said that it was faulty information?
I'm sorry, what you're saying.
Sustained.
So you believed that the roommate wasn't telling you the truth?
Yes.
Okay. And is that why you got back together with Mr. Alexander?
Yes.
But in reality, did you know that at the same time he was dating you, he was sleeping with Miss Arias?
I did not know that.
Did you know that at the time after you finished dating him?
No.
So you never knew that?
I had my suspicions, but I didn't know
Okay.
the details of their relationship.
Okay. And you did know that he was taking her on trips, right?
Yes.
And those were overnight trips?
Yes.
Objection beyond the scope.
Overruled.
All right, and during one of the times that you said one time you were asked the question about being over at Travis's house when Jodi came over?
Yes.
You said that, did Jodi come through the front door?
Yes.
And she walked right in, did she walk right into the house?
Yes.
And once she saw you, is that when she turned and she ran back out?
Yes.
And after she ran out, Travis was with you too, right?
Yes.
And after Miss Arias ran out, did Travis run after her?
Yes.
And Travis was gone for at least a few minutes, wasn't he?
Yes.
And you don't know what happened or what Travis said to Miss Arias, right?
No. I do know she had gotten in her car very quickly, though, and had gotten away.
Okay. But you don't know, Travis was gone for at least a couple of minutes, right? In other words, he didn't
Right.
just run to the door and then come
Right.
back. All right, so he ran outside.
Yes.
Okay. So in other words, he must have felt it important to chase her.
Objection, speculation.
Sustained.
Which roommate was it that gave you supposedly the false information?
John Hepworth.
Okay. And you asked, after you broke up with Travis, did you date anybody else?
Objection beyond the scope of relevance.
This goes to the fact that Travis was calling her.
Overruled.
Were you dating anybody else when Travis was calling you?
Yes.
Okay, and that was after you had broken up with Travis?
Yes.
And is that part of the reason why you didn't want to answer the phone? Answer his calls?
Not really.
Okay. All right, but you did not want to answer his calls, right?
Right.
All right. And you said that you were asked questions about believing that Travis was a virgin?
Yes.
Okay. Despite your belief that he was a virgin, he talked to you a lot about sex. Is that right?
We contemplated marriage, so sex would inevitably come up.
Okay. But during your email, you discussed that it made you uncomfortable at times, right?
Right, very early on. After that, those issues were completely resolved.
Okay. And after the first breakup, when you thought he was cheating, and then you got back together, it was just within 2 months or so that he was talking about marriage?
Objection, leading.
Sustained.
How many months did it take before he was talking about marriage? After you got back together after the first breakup?
It wasn't very long. I don't know the time frame exactly, but I would say between breakups it was only 2 months, so you may be correct in saying it took 2 months or so to talk about it.
Okay. And when he was talking about marriage, it was serious enough that it concerned you?
Objection, leading.
Sustained.
Were you concerned about it?
Not for myself. It was more I wasn't ready. He was So maybe he should explore other options if he was that serious about it at the time. I was happy just dating at the time.
Okay. All right. And this was just a month or two after you had broken up with him for allegedly cheating on you, right?
Right.
All right. Thank you. Nothing further, Judge.
All right. It appears there is another juror question. I have a number of juror questions here. Counsel, please approach. Ms. Donon, the jurors have some questions for you. Did someone tell you that Travis was texting and calling Jodi and another female?
No, actually, Jodi and another female had texted and called several times while we were together. Jodi called numerous times while it's almost as if she knew we were together at the time.
Did you know this before you started dating Travis the second time?
Yes, I was aware of the calls and the texts all the time.
Was the email you sent to Travis before or after you heard he cheated on you with Jodi?
It was less than 24 hours after, so I was very upset.
Did you ever refer to Jodi Arias as a stalker of Travis Alexander?
Yes.
Did Travis ever call you names?
No.
Did you personally feel threatened by Travis?
No.
Was Travis ever abusive to you?
No.
Did he ask you to have sex with him?
No.
Did you feel pressured to do anything?
No.
Did Travis ever make sexual advances to you while you were dating?
No, just all it was making out.
How do you define cheating?
What I understood it to be and what I would still understand it to be is if you are in a committed relationship and you, whether you're kissing or any other sexual activity is going on outside of that committed relationship, I would consider that cheating.
If you were shocked to hear Travis was a virgin, why did you break up with him after you found out he was cheating on you?
I'm sorry, could you read that one again?
Yes. If you were shocked to hear Travis was a virgin, why did you break up with him after you found out he was cheating on you?
No, I believed him to be a virgin, and so I broke up with him because I had understood he had done whatever it was with Jodi. That's what I had believed, and then he had told me that was not the truth, so I did get back together with him after that.
Did you feel that Travis' job interfered with your relationship with regard to travel and phone calls?
Yes.
Any other questions from the jury? Follow up, Ms. Wilmot.
Ms. Donon, you said that you had referred to Miss Arias as a stalker before, is that right?
Yes.
And during the time that you were with Travis, did he say some crazy things about her?
Yes.
So he would tell you these things?
It's also from my own experience.
Okay. She also, or you also, so you were there when these other women would be texting or calling Travis?
Yes.
During the time that you were together, you did have a chance to see Travis's temper, though, right?
I can't recall a specific time.
Do you recall him telling you that he was sorry that he scared you with his temper?
Approach.
Tony, what I'm asking is, do you remember Travis ever apologizing to you for scaring you with his temper?
The only time I recall was after,
Just do you remember him saying that?
yes, one time.
Okay. And you told him that you didn't like to see him like that.
Yes.
All right, that's all, Judge. Thank you.
Mr. Martinez?
Why? You said that he sent you that text. Why did he send you that text?
Judge, may we approach?
You may. The afternoon recess at this time. Please be back in the designated area at 3:25. Please remember the admonition. You are excused.
Please stand for the jury.
Please be seated. The record will show the jury has left the courtroom. Mr. Martinez, you may continue.
Ma'am, why did Mr. Alexander send you that text?
It was one of the nights that something strange had happened, and
That's strange. You can tell it's
Kinda-
strange.
is that, you may, okay.
I'm going to object.
That's not his witness, so I believe it.
Well, Judge, I'm objecting. May we approach?
You may. Actually, here's what we're going to do. We're going to take a recess, and I'll meet with counsel in the back room. We have an additional question as well.
All rise.
Thank you. Please be seated.
Judge, I would like to make a brief record before we begin.
We don't have a court reporter yet. We need to wait just a moment.
Okay.
Approach for a second. All right, we're back on the record. The record will show the presence of the defendant and all counsel. Mr. Nurmi.
Thank you, Your Honor. As it relates to the recent, no better word for it than stunt, of Mr. Martinez asking a lay witness who was not present on June 4th, 2008, when Mr. Alexander attacked Ms. Arias, whether or not her justification defense was valid. He showed a picture, Exhibit 205. There was certainly their reaction is understandable. There was an audible reaction from the victim's family. I understand they probably weren't expecting it, and like I said, the reaction is understandable, but we would ask that if any further occasion such as this, as I referred to as a stunt, happens again, that they be moved to the victim room, because we did and were able to see visible reaction on the part of some of the jurors to their reaction. And I would supplement that as the motion for the mistrial that I made at bench as well.
For the reasons stated at the bench, the motion for mistrial is denied. And ladies and gentlemen in the gallery, I'm going to ask you once again, please refrain from making any comments or laughing or responding in any way to the testimony or evidence. It could affect the outcome of the trial. Thank you for your cooperation. All right, we're going to bring in the jury. And the witness may take the stand. She's in. Ms. Donon, please come forward and take the stand. Yes. Please be seated. The record will show the presence of the jury, the defendant, and all counsel. Mr. Martinez, you may continue.
Ma'am, isn't it true that the incident involving the outburst of anger by Travis Alexander involved him throwing a telephone in response to damage caused to his vehicle?
Yes.
I don't have anything else.
Any other questions from the jury for this witness? You may step down. The defense may call their next witness.
The defense calls Desiree Freeman.
Right up here, please.
Can you spell your first and last name for me?
Desirefreeman.
Raise your right hand. You do solemnly swear the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Thank you. Just go ahead and repeat.
You may proceed.
Thank you. Can you tell us your name, please?
Desiree Freeman.
And Ms. Freeman, are you in school right now?
I am.
Where do you go to school?
Brigham Young University.
So you're a college student?
Yes.
And are you a senior?
Yes, I am.
In fact, were you on a mission?
Yes, I just got back about 6 weeks ago.
Where did you go?
England.
And what does a mission mean?
You spend 18 months as a, not really an employee, but as a volunteer, talking to people about the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints and the things that we believe.
Okay. And so that brings me to my next question. Are you a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints?
Yes.
Is that a Mormon?
Yes.
Okay, thanks. Do you know who Daniel Freeman is?
Yes, he's my brother.
And so right now, I take it, since you're going to BYU, are you living in Utah?
Yes.
At a point in time, did you ever live in Gilbert?
Yes, I lived there from 2001 to 2008.
You know, I'm going to ask you to just speak up a little bit.
Okay.
I'm having a little trouble hearing you. Or you can move that, I think that mic might move a little bit. The flat one.
Okay. That's exciting.
Thanks. All right, so I'm sorry, you said you lived in Gilbert when?
From January of 2001 to January 2008.
All right, and January of 2008, is that when you left for your mission?
No, that's when I moved to Utah to go to Brigham Young University.
When you started at BYU, okay. When you lived in Gilbert, did you belong to a church?
Yes.
And part of, well, were you raised as a Mormon?
Yes, I was.
Okay. And so did you always go to church as being raised that way?
Yeah.
Did you know someone named Travis Alexander?
Yes, I did.
And how did you know him?
I knew him through my brother Daniel.
I'm sorry, what?
I knew him through my brother Daniel.
Okay. And did you know Jodi Arias?
Yes, I did.
How did you know Jodi?
Through Travis.
All right. And do you see Jodi here today?
Yes, I do.
Okay. And is your brother older than you? Is your brother older than you?
Yes, he is.
Okay. All right. And so you met Jodi and Travis through your brother?
Yes.
All right. And did you all go to the same church activities?
Yeah, we did.
Is that a yes?
Yes, it is.
All right. Were there times that you would hang out with Jodi and Travis?
Yeah.
And your brother also?
Yes.
So did you hang out with as the four of you together?
Yeah, we did.
And were there times when you would hang out, you would have Jodi and Travis would be there, but there would be more than just you and your brother present also?
Yes.
And during what time period are we talking? When did this happen?
From the beginning of 2007 until I left in the beginning of 2008.
Okay, so for about a year?
About a year, yeah.
And the times that you would see or hang out, I guess, with your brother and Jodi and Travis, how often did that happen?
Where it was just the four of us happened a few times throughout that year.
Okay. And what about how often did it happen when you would be in a larger group?
That I would say probably about every few weeks or so.
Okay. And when you would hang out in a larger group, was that part of church activities?
Sometimes it was other activities.
Okay. Besides these times that you hung out together, did you also take a trip with where Jodi and Travis were there?
Yes.
Did you go to Havasupai?
Yes, we did.
And where else did you go?
We also went to Sedona and the Grand Canyon.
Okay. When the four of you would hang out together, what kinds of things did you typically do?
Let's see. Mostly I would say it was just travel, like traveling or watching a movie or something.
Traveling or watching a movie?
Yeah,
Okay.
as far as I can recollect.
I know it was several years ago.
Yeah.
All right. Did you have a chance to see or observe Travis and Jodi together when it was just the four of you, either on trips or just hanging out watching movies?
Yes.
And how did Travis treat Jodi when it was just the four of you?
Very well.
And what do you mean by very well? What did he do?
They just seemed happy to be with each other, like very cuddly and very much a couple.
Was he affectionate with her?
Yes.
And was she affectionate with him?
Yes.
Did Travis ever seem to be clingy to Jodi?
Yeah, he was always seemingly very, very happy to be with her whenever they were together.
Okay. And did you ever have a chance to see them? Well, you talked about when you would all hang out, but they would be in a larger group setting.
Yeah.
Is that right? When they were in a larger group setting, how did Travis treat Jodi?
When they were dating, it was about the same, like, spent a lot of time together, but he would also talk to a lot of other people. And then after after they weren't dating anymore, they didn't spend that much time together, and he talked to a lot of other people.
Okay, and after they weren't dating anymore, was that, to put a time frame in your mind, was that after the trip to the Grand Canyon in Sedona?
Yes.
Okay, so before the trip to Grand Canyon in Sedona, is that when they were dating?
Yes.
All right. And so when they were dating, you said that he would talk to her and hang out with her in larger group settings?
Yes.
And then after this trip, after they broke up, which is sometime after Grand Canyon Sedona, did he ignore her?
Not that I saw.
Okay. But were they together in these larger group settings? Did they talk very often to each other then?
No, it was more that she was just someone in the background.
That what?
It was more that, like, if Travis was talking to someone, Jodi was just someone in the background, not necessarily.
Like he wasn't really paying attention to
Yeah.
her? Okay. So did you have a chance to see Travis interact then with other people also?
Yes.
Would you characterize him as flirtatious with other girls?
Yeah, I would.
I want to talk to you about a little bit more about the trips.
Okay.
Do you remember when Grand Canyon and Sedona, when that trip was?
I think it was in the summertime, around June or so,
Okay,
after
June.
I graduated.
After you graduated? June of 2007, is that the
Yes.
year? Okay. And who went on that trip?
Jodi, Travis, my brother, and I.
So just the four of you?
Mm-hmm.
Is that a yes?
Yes. Sorry.
And how did Travis and Jodi get along during that trip?
Very, very well.
Was Travis affectionate with Jodi?
Yes.
And vice versa?
Mm-hmm.
Is that a yes?
Yes.
And the other trip was to where?
Havasupai.
All right. And when was that?
That was 13th of September to the 15th of September of 2007.
And why do you remember those dates?
Because the 14th was my birthday.
Okay. So is that how the dates stick out in your memory?
Yes.
All right. And who went to Havasupai?
Just the four of us again. Just Travis, Jodi, my brother, and I.
All right. And was this, so this was this trip after the trip to the Grand Canyon?
Yes.
So would this have been after they broke up?
Yes.
And anybody else go, or just the four of you?
Just the four of us.
And during that time when it was just the four of you, how did Travis treat Jodi?
Just like they were when they previously were dating.
Did
There was no change.
So did they act like they were dating?
Yes.
Did they act to you? Did it seem like they were together?
Yes.
In September of 2007, did you know whether or not Travis was dating somebody else?
Yeah, I thought he was. I thought he was dating Lisa.
Lisa? Do you know Lisa's last name?
No.
Okay. So, did you find that odd that Travis brought Jodi?
Objection, relevance.
Sustained.
In your religion, is premarital sex allowed?
No.
Okay. And what's that called?
It's called the law of chastity.
Okay. And what about if two single people were to be traveling together? How does that appear?
Not good.
Not good. Okay. Is that normal at all?
No, not really.
And I should preface this by saying I'm speaking specifically in the Mormon faith.
Yes.
Okay. So in the Mormon faith, if there's two single people traveling together, what do other people, how is that looked upon?
Normally people just see it as kind of odd because we try very hard not to put ourselves in situations where we might be tempted to have premarital sex and things like that. So you would normally not go on that, especially if you're dating. It wouldn't be something that would be viewed well, I suppose.
I'm sorry, did you say viewed well?
Yes.
Okay. And you said especially if you're dating?
Yeah.
Why is that?
Just because the temptation's higher.
Okay. And the thought is to keep away from the temptation?
Yes.
Did Travis claim to be a virgin?
Yes, he did.
Is that something he talked about?
He made jokes about it.
Jokes in what way?
Objection, hearsay.
Did he seem happy to be a virgin?
Yes.
And did he seem proud?
Yes.
Going back a little bit to Havasupai, to the trip to Havasupai, was this an overnight trip?
Yes.
Do you remember? Oh, well, you said from the 13th to the 15th, right?
Yeah.
Okay, sorry. So that would be 2 nights?
Yes.
And during this trip, did you ever see an argument between Travis and Jodi?
Yes.
Can you tell us what happened?
We were in the car, and we were driving to Havasupai, and somewhere along the way, Jodi wanted to stop and take some pictures, so she got out and took some pictures, and when she came to get back in the car, Travis drove off a little bit and made it so she couldn't get in the car.
Travis was driving a little as a joke, you mean?
Yeah, as a joke. And then he stopped, and she got in, and
when Jodi got in, when Jodi got in the car, did she say something like that wasn't funny?
Yes.
Objection, hearsay.
Overruled.
I'm sorry, you said what?
Yes.
She did say that?
Yes.
Okay. And how did Travis respond to that?
His response was very.
Without telling me what Travis said, how did he respond?
His response was just very stark, I would say. It seemed.
Wait, I'm sorry, I couldn't hear what you said. It was very what?
I can't really find the best word. Stark, but it seemed a little over the top for the encounter.
Okay. Did he raise his voice?
Yeah.
Yes, he did?
Yes, he did.
All right. And he had just been joking with her a few minutes before, or a few seconds before?
Yes.
How did you feel about his response?
Objection, relevance.
Sustained.
Were you shocked?
I was.
And after his over-the-top reaction, did Jodi respond at all to him?
No.
Judge mischaracterizing the response. Listen to him.
Rephrase.
After the response that shocked you, did Jodi respond in any way?
No, she just stared out the window.
She just stayed. Did she stay quiet?
Yes.
And she stared out the window?
Yes.
All right. Thank you. That's all for now, Judge.
Cross-examination.
With regard to this issue of premarital sex, you indicated it was not allowed by the Mormon Church, right?
Yes.
And premarital sex involves participating in passionate kissing, right?
Yes.
It also involves lying on top of another person, right?
Yes.
It also involves touching the private parts of another person's body, right?
Yes.
It also involves touching the sacred parts of another person's body, right?
Yes.
And this issue about touching can be is prohibited with or without clothing, correct?
Yes.
And this sexual issue, in the Mormon Church teaches that the parties, or the two people, are not to do anything that arouses sexual feelings, right?
Yes.
And they are not to arouse the emotions of your own body, right?
Yes.
And other things that are prohibited are things such as participating in discussions or any media that arouse sexual feelings, correct?
Yes.
Now, one of the things that you were telling us was that there were 2 trips that were involved with the defendant, you, your brother, and Mr. Alexander, correct?
Yes.
And one of the trips was the one that was at the Havasupai Falls, right?
Yeah.
And that was in September, during your birthday, right?
Yes.
The other trip involved a trip to the Grand Canyon and Sedona, right?
Yes.
And during that trip, during those 2 trips, you said that they got along very, very, very well. That's what you said, right?
Yeah, they got on very well.
Right? And according to you, there was no conflict between the 2 of them, right?
Aside from the one instance, yes.
Sure, aside from the one that you mentioned, where he jokingly wouldn't allow her to get in the car, something like that, right?
Yes.
That was the only incident that you can remember, right?
Yes.
Do you remember what happened before they went to on that Havasupai trip? Do you remember that?
No.
Do you know that during that time there was an issue?
Objection, Your Honor. She just said she doesn't remember what happened.
Remember the first recollection?
All right, overruled.
Isn't it true, ma'am, that before they went on this trip, there was an issue involving the defendant's backpack, right?
I don't recall it.
Do you remember that you were in the car, correct? Driving up to Havasupai, weren't you?
Yes, I was.
Mr. Alexander was driving, right?
Yes, he was.
The defendant was in the passenger seat, right?
Yes.
And you were in the back with your brother, right?
Yes.
And do you remember that for the first approximately 30 minutes of that trip, there was no talking between Mr. Alexander and the defendant? Do you remember that?
No.
Do you think that they were talking all along in the beginning of that trip?
I just don't remember.
It could be you just don't remember, right?
Yes.
It could be they were in a fight, you just don't remember.
I just don't recall.
And do you remember that when you went down to Havasupai, all of you stayed in hammocks, right?
Yes, we did.
And when you stayed in these hammocks, the defendant stayed in her hammock, you stayed in your hammock, Mr. Alexander stayed in his hammock, and your brother was in his hammock, right?
Yes.
And there was a time where, getting up in the morning, there was a time that there was a trek or a hike that the 4 of you took, right?
Yes.
Isn't it true that you and your brother went ahead of the defendant and Mr. Alexander because they were arguing over the defendant being too clingy with him.
I do not remember.
You don't remember that you guys took off and they didn't join you for about an hour and a half. Do you remember that?
No.
And that when they joined you, they were upset at each other. You don't remember that?
No.
How about when they went on the trip? You said that, well, the trip to Sedona. Do you remember that? You told us, well, there was this issue involving the taking of photographs, right? Well, the defendant wanted Sedona Grand Canyon. It was the same trip, right?
Sedona Grand Canyon trip, yes.
Right. Same trip, right?
Yes.
And the defendant wanted to take some photographs, right?
Yes.
Mr. Alexander stopped the car, right?
Yes.
And actually what happened is that the defendant was upset because he got too close to the edge of the road. Isn't that what was the problem?
I don't remember.
And isn't it true that he did this, got too close to the edge, so that she could get out and take a better picture? Do you remember that?
No.
And when she got out, you do remember, though, that she went out and got out to take pictures, right?
Yes.
And when she went out to get pictures, she went to get back in, and he kind of sort of took off, right?
Yes.
And that created a problem, right?
Yes.
And then according to you, when she got in, he made a remark, right?
They both did.
Wow. According to you, he made a remark that shocked you, right?
It was over the top.
Pardon?
It was over the top.
It was over the top. And do you even remember the remark today?
No, I don't.
It was so shocking you can't remember what the remark was, can you?
It's just been a very long time.
The answer is you can't remember even though you were so shocked and over the top, right?
Yes, I can't
I don't have
remember.
anything else.
Redirect.
Ms. Freeman, you were just asked questions about the Grand Canyon Sedona trip, right?
Yes.
Okay. I think there might be some confusion. So it was the Have a Supai trip, wasn't it, where this over-the-top, shocking comment was made to Jodi?
Objection leading.
Rephrase.
When we discussed on direct, when I just was up here a few minutes ago, and we talked about the different trips, was it in Have a Supai where the argument occurs about him going forward and then making a bad comment to Ms. Arias?
It was a Have a Super trip.
Okay, so and what was the comment itself? Was it how the comment was made that was shocking, or was it the comment itself?
It was how it was made.
And is that why you remember it, how it was made?
Yeah.
Objection leading.
Overruled.
Yes, that's why I remember it.
And during that Havasupai trip, before going, was it Travis who wanted to bring Jodi?
Objection speculation.
I can ask, did you know? Did you know that Travis wanted to bring Jodi?
Objection leading.
Overruled. You may answer yes or no.
As far as I remember, yes.
All right, thank you. Nothing further.
Any questions from the jury for this witness? You may step down. The defense may call its next witness.
Thank you, Your Honor. The defense calls Daniel Freeman.
Raise your right hand. You do solemnly swear the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes, I do.
Please walk around and have a seat right over here.
Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon.
Could you introduce yourself to the jury, please?
My name is Daniel Freeman.
And Mr. Freeman, where do you live?
I live here in Gilbert.
Okay. And how old are you, sir?
29.
Okay. Have you lived in Gilbert all your life?
No, I've moved many, many times.
Okay. How long have you lived in Gilbert this latest stint?
Initially I moved here in 2001 and moved back in just this last November to help work with a friend here.
Okay. So you lived here from 2001 till when?
Here from 2001 to 2006, and then from 2006 to 2008, I was in Canada for 2 years. And
what?
I was in Canada for 2
Okay.
years as a missionary, and then here again from 2008 until I guess a year and 3 months ago, and then I went to
Okay.
Colorado.
All right. You mentioned you were a missionary in Canada, which brings to my next question. Are you a member of the Mormon Church?
Yes, I am.
Okay. And this missionary you served, this was what year?
October of 06 to November of 08.
Okay. And is that the only mission you've been on?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And could I get you to answer yes or no instead
Yes.
of
Yes.
for the court reporter? Thank you, sir. Now, you mentioned your mission work. What was there a particular duty or role you had in that work?
As a missionary, we did a lot of proselyting and sharing our beliefs with people, inviting them if they wished to learn more. I particularly did a lot of work with either less active members or friends of members for the most part.
So describe for us then what you would do when you're speaking to informing people of the church. Proselytizing, is that the word you used? Describe what that meant.
We would, whether it was contacting or friends who were interested to learn what our beliefs were, we would meet with them and share our beliefs and our history and where they came from. And as we shared them, invite them to learn for themselves, to pray, to kneel down on their knees and get their own answers spiritually. And mostly it was educational, and we would teach people how to connect with their higher power if they wished, and help them to find what they were looking for, and really just to, for me, being a missionary was all about encouraging people to live the things they knew to be true, even if it didn't connect them to our faith in the end and they became a member of our church. For me, it was important that they just live what they knew to be true, and if they found ours to be true, to conform to that.
Okay. And I imagine this isn't something you can broach in first time you meet someone or in 10 minutes. I imagine it's a process, right?
Yes, it's a process. As a missionary, we broached the topic fairly quickly that's what we were there for, because that was our purpose.
Okay. But tell me about the process, if you will. Like I say, you're not going to someone and say, come to our church and baptizing them and, get them back home that afternoon, right? I mean, tell us about that.
Usually there would be a process of events that they would have gone through before we'd even met them that had made them open or interested or willing to learn or wanting to learn. And in my case, a lot of times it was members who would bring their friends to activities that we had and would introduce us, and we'd talk to them and get to know them. And in that conversation, they said that they would like to know more about our beliefs, and we'd set up an appointment to go by and discuss with them and talk with them. And so initially we'd talk about the Book of Mormon, for which we're also called Mormons, and we talk about Joseph Smith and the history of revelation and scripture throughout the world. And then we would invite them to read some of the Book of Mormon, and we'd set up a time to come back, and then we'd talk to them about the three big questions kind of in life that everyone has is, who are we, where did we come from, why are we here, and where are we going? And so we'd answer those questions with them and invite them again to read more and to pray. And then we would talk to them specifically about the church itself and how it was organized and founded and what its purpose is and why it was here on the earth. And we would invite them again to pray and to start to come to church. And as people showed through willingness in their actions that they were willing to progress or willing to learn more through actions of what they did, we would just continue to invite them to pray and ask them if they'd received an answer or spiritual promptings that they felt. And as they had, we would continue to invite them more further, ultimately ending in baptism and becoming a member of the church.
Okay. So it sounds like it's some time. It takes some time. There's a lot of visits. There's a lot of, I don't know if I'm using the right word, but there's a lot of spiritual investment or introspection involved in that, right?
Yes, there is. You become very good friends with the people that you work with and teach.
Okay. And it's not necessarily a process, even for you as a missionary, to just, put someone on to get them into church and baptize them without them reaching that point, right? That's not your goal.
No. The goal is not to bring people into the church so that they disappear or fall away. It's to help people find within themselves the desire and the drive, if that's what they feel that they should do, and to do it.
Okay. So as a missionary, you're not seeking to baptize someone or seeking to have them baptized until you're satisfied, if you will, that they've put in the effort, they put in the introspection, they put in the work, right?
No, we're seeking to baptize people who want to be a part of the church and serve within the community.
Okay. Now, sir, did you know a man by the name of Travis Alexander?
Yes, I did.
Okay. And how did you come to know Travis Alexander?
I came to know Travis through prepaid legal. I started working with prepaid legal here with some of my friends and Danny Jones and a number of others. And after we'd been working for probably several months, I don't remember, but it was the first big event that we'd gone to that was regional in nature. And at the regional event, I met Travis Alexander, Chris Hughes, and a number of other of the leaders in prepaid legal.
Okay. You say leaders. Was he directly connected to you in terms of the hierarchy or the teams, Mr. Alexander?
He was connected to me, there was no compensation connecting us at all, no compensation benefit connecting us, but he was in the Hughes brothers had several teams, and together they all kind of branched out, and he was in, I believe, one of the other Hughes brothers teams.
Okay. And so you weren't directly underneath him, so to speak?
No.
Okay. And do you remember when, month or year, this meeting took place with Mr. Alexander?
And I don't remember the exact date, because I don't remember exactly when I started prepaid legal.
Okay.
But I know I knew him well before I left on my mission in 2006. And so I want to say it was in 2003 or 2004. Because at the time I was working at an auto dealership there.
Okay. So he wasn't, just to clarify, he wasn't just a business associate of yours?
No.
He was a friend?
Yeah. Initially, we met at the business events, and initially, him and I we didn't get along very well initially, honestly.
Okay.
Because at first I found him kind of cocky, honestly.
Okay.
But with time, as I came to know him, him and I came to be very good friends.
Okay. And that friendship was at least 2 years in duration, based on what you told us, right? 2 or 3 years, perhaps?
Up to 2006, and then after coming back in 2008, we were friends again.
Okay. During your relationship with Mr. Alexander, did he ever introduce you to Jodi Arias?
Yes, he did.
Tell us how that occurred.
Travis and he was going to, and I believe at this time I was roommates with him, but so we were, Travis was going to a Super Saturday, an event that was going on in California with Chris Hughes, and he was driving out to that, and I didn't have anything going on that weekend. He asked if I wanted to go, and so I believe it was Friday night, fairly late, we started driving over, and I met Jodi over there that night, late that evening on the way there. He said, "Hey, I want to stop by and introduce you to somebody. We're just going to stop by and say hi." on our way to town.
Okay. And you say, do you think it was, you said late in the evening, are we talking early morning or are we talking late in the evening?
Early morning. It was after midnight when we arrived there.
Okay. Do you have any knowledge whether Jodi Arias was expecting your arrival?
I don't think so.
Okay. And what do you base that on?
I remember Travis on the way over, just what he said was he was going...
Let me ask you this. Based on your travels with Travis to Miss Arias' home, you didn't get the indication that she was expecting him or you?
When she opened the door, she was quite surprised.
Okay. When she opened the door, were both you and Travis standing there, or how did that?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Tell us what happened just once she opened the door.
Once she opened the door, she was surprised and came out and gave Travis a hug. Travis introduced me. We went inside. She had been watching the movie The Secret. It was on the TV.
Okay.
And they were joking around, and I think I'd been sleeping in the car before we got there. I sat down on the couch, and they continued to talk, and I talked a little bit. And then they went off into the back and were still talking and laughing. And I watched The Secret for a while, fell asleep watching that, and when they came back in, I was waking up and chatted with them more.
Okay. So would that be, you would say, it sounds to me like you were at the home several hours, Miss Arias' home?
I don't remember the exact duration, but I'd say maybe an hour, because the movie was finishing when I woke up.
All right. After you met Jodi, did you strike up a friendship with her as well?
Initially, we were on friendly terms at the events that we would go to, whether it was prepaid legal events, but the only time I would see was when I was hanging out with Travis and she was there. But we became good friends in that regard.
Okay. Did you also become good friends with Miss Arias independent of Mr. Alexander? Did you spend time with her on your own as well?
The only time that I believe we spent not with Travis was the times when we were all at events together, and Travis would be doing things with the leadership, and then Jodi and I and others, my sister included, would hang out and do things at the events and spend time together. But I don't remember specifically being alone, just the two of us during that time.
I want to clarify something. You brought up something. How long were you Travis's roommate?
3 or 4 months.
Okay. And you were a roommate at the period of time when Mr. Alexander introduced you to Miss Arias, right?
I believe so.
Okay. And you were a member of prepaid legal at the time of this meeting as well, right?
Yes.
Okay. Are you still involved in prepaid legal?
No, I have an active membership, but I'm not actively involved.
Okay. And actively involved, I take it by that you mean, going to meetings, that sort of thing, selling the product, right?
Yes, no, I am not.
And when did that venture cease for you?
When I went on my mission in 2006, it was put on pause for 2 years. I came back, and from 2008 until 2009, I believe it was in 2009 that I ceased that venture in January, I believe.
Okay. Did you ever have the occasion to travel with Jodi and Travis?
Yes, I did.
Do you recall how many trips you took with them?
The trips I can specifically think of with just the two of them that weren't prepaid legal were when we went to Havasupai and we went to Sedona and the Grand Canyon.
Okay. As it relates, let me just first of all focus our questioning on the Havasupai trip, okay? Is that a yes? Can we
yes.
ask
Yeah,
you
we can focus
okay.
on that.
I saw you nod, so. Do you recall when that trip took place?
Forgive me, I'm trying to think of timeline. I've moved close to 50 times now, so I have to sort through.
Fair enough. Take your time, and I'm not asking for an exact date. Maybe if you could give us a month and year.
It was towards the end of a summer, and I believe it was 2007.
Okay. The end of summer 2007. And this trip to Havasupai, we mentioned Jodi and Travis going on this trip with you, right?
Mm-hmm.
Is that a yes?
Yes, that is.
And was anyone else on that trip?
And my sister Desiree as well.
Okay. Was it your impression that Jodi and Travis were together as a couple during that trip?
Yes, it was.
And on what do you base that impression?
How they interacted together. My impression, I would say, is that they were to everyone else it seemed like they were together and yet not together, and to me when I was around them, with just the two of them, they were fairly comfortable together and acted more like a couple. And I know with Travis, around others, he didn't know. He was still figuring out, I guess, where he was. And so around others, when Jodi wasn't there, even when I was there, he was different in his demeanor. He didn't mention Jodi. But when they were together, to me, they were dating, but there were some issues that they were still working out, and so I didn't ask a lot of questions about it.
Okay. You said a lot there. Are you telling us that he acted differently privately with Jodi than he did, shall we say, publicly with Jodi?
Yes.
Okay. And could you really kind of just describe for us what you mean by that?
At that time, at least when we were going on the trip, throughout the week and hanging out with different groups of friends that Travis had who would come over.
Okay.
Oftentimes Jodi would not come to those events, but then they would hang out later on in the week.
Okay.
And so there were different groups of friends that would hang out and kind of exclusive of one another.
Okay. So your impression was he kept Jodi into a different compartment. Is that right?
Yeah, yes, I guess you could say that.
Different peer group.
Yes.
That'd be a better word. Okay. Now you said in this late summer of 2007 when you went to Havasupai, your impression was that they were a couple. They were acting like a couple, right?
Yes, they were acting like a couple. There were definitely some undercurrents there between them, but they were acting like a couple.
Okay. Well, let's break that down a bit. What do you mean by, what makes you say they were definitely acting like a couple?
They would flirt and tease and hold hands and little as they talked and things like that. They were just very intimate in the way they conversed with each other. They knew each other very well and were obviously comfortable and friendly in one another's company.
Do you mean that physically?
They were comfortable but not overly expressive.
Okay.
As in touching, kissing, things like that in public, in front of other people.
And you said in public in front of other people, but when you were on this trip, when it was just the four of you, were they physically expressive?
Yes. They would hold hands and touch, and in the waterfalls and things when we would swim, they were in some of the pools where we would sit. Jodi would sit on Travis's lap, or they'd have their arms around each other for a photo, for a shot, things like that.
Okay. And that was different than the way they acted in public?
If they were at an event for the most part, or at a friend's gathering, they weren't as... They were friends, it looked like more to me.
Okay. You also mentioned there were some undercurrents going on during this trip. What do you mean by that?
When we started the trip, I think of two things. I'll back up first. One is in conversations that I had with Travis, what he had said was that while he loved Jodi. He didn't know if he wanted to marry her. And so as far as dating, he said he wanted to date other people, and yet every time they hung out, he said that they would continue to hang out and would continue to fall back into dating again.
Okay.
And so I knew that that was in Travis's mind. And then as we get ready to go on the trip, we had packed backpacks in everybody's bags. And Jodi had brought hers downstairs and set it on the table. And then had gone back up to finish getting ready. And I was just picking it up to move it off the table. And it was quite heavy. And with the hike in being long, I didn't know if she would survive that hike with that pack. So I opened it up to see what was in there and found, things girls take with them, lotions, pills, or lotions, makeup, things of that nature. So I proceeded, as I usually do for hiking, I helped to lighten her pack.
Okay.
And then she came down and saw what we had taken out, or what I had taken out in particular, and had made a comment about it. And she was not happy with it, and had expressed her concern that those things were no longer in her pack. And I don't remember what Travis said, but he made a comment back, and that... Okay.
Well, let me ask you this. Based on your assessment of Mr. Alexander's demeanor, was he upset with Miss Arias over this backpack? Without telling me anything he said, was he angry? Was he talking loud?
He did start to talk loud. It wasn't about the backpack, though. It was about the exchange between them that went on. And then she went upstairs and had started crying, and he had started raising his voice and yelling a little bit. So they were arguing back and forth upstairs. And my sister and I sat downstairs on the couch for a while, looking at each other, and I was wondering, what did I do? And after 3, 4, 5 minutes, I went upstairs and started to talk with them and say, hey, let's calm down and de-escalate the argument. Okay.
And based on the fact that you made it there, I'm guessing eventually you got in the car and began to drive up there, right?
We got in the car, and Travis and Jodi still weren't talking to each other.
Okay.
And we had suggested, well, everybody's a little tense. Let's get in the car and start to drive, and everyone will calm down as we go. And within half an hour, everyone was happy and joking and talking again.
Okay. Before we move on to the Sedona trip, I want to ask you, at this time period, this late summer 2007, were you under the impression that Travis was dating someone else, not Jodi?
I do not recall at the time of those trips if he was actively dating anyone else or if he was just hanging out with groups of friends at the house.
Okay. Do you remember him having a relationship with a young lady named, at that time, Lisa Andrews?
I do remember Lisa, and her as well as an entourage of many of her friends were over there. Although I do remember we went out to eat dinner, Travis and I, and Lisa, and another one of her friends. We went out to eat, and I believe that was before we went on the trip.
Okay. And was that sort of a double date?
It was kind of a spontaneous occurrence that happened, and while there, it wasn't official. But so while there, that was my impression was, well, we ended up on a double date, basically.
Okay. And while on this double date with Lisa Andrews and you yourself and this other young lady, was this at a restaurant, this public place?
Mm-hmm. I believe we were at Denny's. Okay.
And you mentioned that you kind of got the impression that Travis was or you were on a double date. Was Travis acting as if he was, or were he and Lisa acting as if they were a couple?
Not as a couple, but they were flirting and talking, and Travis was making jokes, and he was making jokes and being who he was, usually around women that he was interested in. Just
okay.
Talking.
So based on his behavior, you got the impression that he was interested in, at the very least, interested in Lisa Andrews at that point in time, right?
Yes, or that he enjoyed hanging out with her and spending time with her. I can't say that anything he did was specifically expressed to me that he clearly and that he was clearly saying it, but to me it was present there in the background.
Okay. Your Honor, may we approach?
Recess at this time. However, before we adjourn, there are two matters I would like to discuss with you. The first matter is that some of the evidence in this matter may elicit emotional responses from witnesses and from those seated in the gallery. At the end of the trial, I will give you final instructions. You will also see something of this nature in your preliminary instructions. But I want to emphasize to you at this point that in evaluating the evidence, you should not be influenced by sympathy or prejudice. Now, in response to the incident that occurred yesterday during the noon hour involving the one juror, the court has arranged to have an escort for all jurors downstairs each day at the noon hour and after court. So there will be someone here from court security to take all of you downstairs at lunch, and they will also take you downstairs to the bus at the end of the court day. I'm going to suggest that if any of you have concerns about being approached, that you remove your juror badge when you're coming into the court building. Put it on as soon as you get inside the court building. The media has been, they have been approached, and they are aware that they should not be trying to contact any jurors. All right, are there any questions? Please remember the admonition. Have a nice evening. We will see you tomorrow at 10:30. You can step down, sir. Thank you. We'll see you tomorrow at 10:30. Please be seated. Counsel, is there anything else we need to address? No. All right, we're adjourned.